Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I want to speak about this entire best of one debacle. North America has recently announced that they are going to switch back to a best of one system. There's a lot of outrage, there's a lot of discussion. I want to weigh in with my 2 cents. So the most obvious points is that best of one in the past had more viewers. It is a system that is more easily digestible for the majority of the viewership, which is completely understandable. It's hard to keep track of so many games. That is so like the financial means of it, the viewership is in favor of best of one, right? There's of course other reasons why the viewership has declined a little bit, but a lot of this is put on the system and how easily it is digestible. All right. The other argument is that best of ones are being played at the World Championship, and they're a part of the World Championship, so it makes sense to play best of ones and prepare yourself for a group stage, because in a sense, a system where you play a regular season and you play best of ones and then transition into best of five, it is kind of close to what a World Championship would look like. Alright, so those are the two arguments I think that are the heaviest. I think all the other ones are, sure, there might be some, but I think these are the two heaviest. Best of three, the main argument for a lot of us, and I was a massive supporter of it at the time, is that a larger volume of games is better for the competitive aspect of a league and teams. People try to tell themselves that, or try to mimic, I myself, I try to mimic in practice, I try to achieve in that sense that practice is very similar to the play on stage, but the same way with anything, it's impossible to reach perfection, even though you have to try to reach perfection. And sure, you try different strategies and scrims, and there are a lot of differences when you come into an LCS match. You come in prepared, right? There's a big difference there, but the main outlier is that the most obvious thing is that the games on stage are in fact very different from scrim games, and they're more valuable in that sense because you are put on the front line. It's the same as, let's say, you are in the military. It's way more badass to say that yeah, I trained here and here. It's more badass to say, well, I'm a veteran from this war, I'm a veteran from this place. This is because true experience means more. And maybe this comparison is completely bonkers because I haven't been in the military, but I think you get my point. The second thing is, best of three. I think the main argument for it is the volume of games. At the end of the day, with best of three as well, the winner is crowned in a proper manner. Like, you can't get upset in the same sense that you lose one game because someone thought of a new strategy with Nidalee AD carry and Soraka, and they're just healing each other and they're doing. Don't try this. I'm just thinking of something whack that people have won games with in the past, right? Maybe this happens and all of a sudden you're in a position where you beat a top team, and for the sake of competitiveness, that of course is bad if you get cheesed and then all of a sudden you go home with 3 points or 1 point, which would be the case in a best of one system, 1 point, right? And all of a sudden it's unsatisfactory for the competitive aspect, but for the viewership and for Reddit and for the overall excitement of something, then this upset would be amazing, right? I remember this time where Copenhagen Wolves beat Alliance, and it was like, wow, this was the big thing, when Alliance was stomping everybody. And then the second time they faced each other, then Alliance just went all in and completely ridiculed them and bought like Magi Soul Stealer and just went completely ham on them, because they had something to prove, right? So definitely there are storylines that appear in best of ones that are interesting. Best of three is in the sense of competition and making sure that the best team is the winner at the end of the day. That is, of course, the outcomes of the two league. So the main thing here is, best of one is being played at Worlds. This is very important to remember. I think at the end of the day, having some kind of practice in this kind of setting is very, very important. I think a team like G2 in history, they had a lot of games where they lost the first match. Happened in BO2 system, best of three system. This was a positive change for them as a team, right? Because they had a lot of losses in the first game, right, in the series. Very important to highlight. And As a team, though, because of these systems, they were a lot better because they were very good at adapting, very good at preparing for longer series, right? Very good at adapting in between games. And this is not saying like if the system was different, maybe G2 would have been strong in that sense of it. Maybe if it was the best of one system, maybe G2 would have focused on training those kind of traits. But I'm not saying that G2 would be bad in the best of one system. I'm just saying, I'm just drawing this line that in best of three, they have in fact lost the first game, and it has impacted their group stage performances, I could imagine, because they lose that first initial game all the time. You know, something else that I want to talk about is what does it mean to try a system? Because a lot of people are throwing around the word, yeah, well, let's just try the system and see how it works out. And trying a system trying a system over one split doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything. It is completely like, it just doesn't do anything because you need to try it over a very long period of time. I don't think we've had enough splits, maybe best of one splits, maybe that is where we can like draw some information from, because I think we had about, I don't know, what was it, 6 best of one splits. Don't quote me on this. This is a bigger amount of best of one splits, but trying a system, you need to do it over a long period of time because there's a lot of variables there that, of course, you can't measure over a specific time. Maybe a split was just filled with boring teams. I think the best of two system definitely got a bad reputation because that split where it was in, it wasn't too exciting. It was when I was in Splice and we got second place, and maybe that was exciting for some people. It was exciting for me for sure. We got second place, and then there was G2 getting first place, and there was just, it just wasn't an exciting split. And usually, like for other splits, that can be said. You know, Fnatic was also not playing that well at that time. It was like the Spirit days and the Gamsu days, and it wasn't like the most exciting Fnatic, which matters, you know. And I think there was a lot of things that gave the best of two system a bad reputation. And I think to try a system, you need to do it over a long period of time. And best of two, you know, there's a lot of arguments for best of two because you could value both things, right? You could value a team that is good and coming in hard in the best of one. They come in and they get a point, and winning a game actually gives them a physical point, and it matters, right? And then on top of that, you reward adaptation because you come into the second game, right? And I think, you know, best of two is not as horrible as people make it out to be, because at the end of the day, you reward two things: adaptation and best of one play. And I think that is very important to highlight. Best of one play as well, you know, a lot of people saying, yeah, you get rewarded in best of three, you get rewarded for macro and good decisions. The thing is, if you are good enough, you get rewarded in best of ones as well for good macro and good play, right? If you are a very good macro based team, you can do the same and gain the same in best of ones, right? There are just variables that exist in best of ones that might be annoying for some, right? The cheesiness. Maybe someone just fat fingers their flash and loses the game. Maybe someone steals a Nasher, right? This could be like variables that just play out in a best of one, and that's the painful part about best of one when it comes to being a pro player, right? And usually for the viewership, this is what is more exciting. You know, it's the same. The biggest example is Hearthstone, right? If it wasn't, a lot of people are watching Hearthstone. If it wasn't for the crazy RNG and the draws and all the RNG about it, then people wouldn't watch it, right? If it was just a structured kind of game where, oh, he plays this card, I respond with this card, and it was like a meta game that was completely played out, right? There was no RNG element to it at all, then Hearthstone would be a very boring game to watch, right? So it's very, very clear, once again, you know, money towards competitiveness. In that sense of it, I think best of two is kind of the fine line in between. I support best of one if there is more best of series. In a sense, like I think a good way to approach it is to extend playoffs, make playoffs bigger. Maybe you put 8 teams in playoffs instead of the 6. Maybe you make it a double elimination, extend playoffs, and then all of a sudden you get the best of two worlds, right? You get best of one, And best of one has an impact in best of fives too as well, because if you are good at best of ones, you come into a best of five system and you start off with a 1-0. This matters as well, right? Sure, if you suck at adapting, it might not matter at all, but starting a series with 1-0 because you're really good at best of ones is also something that is positive, and it's important to outline, right? So I brought up the point about extending playoffs. The way I imagine something, maybe this would be a scheduling nightmare, but the way I imagine the perfect league system would be is that you have best of ones in a regular split, and at the same time you play kind of a tournament at the same time, right? So you play regular split, and at the same time you play a tournament. So maybe you have like a tournament week where you play that best of five against a team, and then you progress in the tournament at the same time as you play through regular split, right? And then when the season is over, well, when the tournament is over and the regular split is over, you get points for both things, and then you go into playoffs, right? So in this sense, you would get best of ones, you get a lot of best of series, you could get these exciting best of five series where there's a lot of preparation going into it and there's a lot of emphasis put into it, and at the same time you get like the fast-paced, easily digestible League of Legends that is the best of one. This might be a scheduling nightmare, you know. I thought about it a bit myself. Maybe you would have to cram in a bit more games in the best of one weeks. Maybe you'd have to play 3 games sometimes, and then you would get best of five week, you know, maybe every second week, and then you would come into playoffs, and then you would be there, right? And then at the end of the entire thing, you get points for both, and these points kind of get amounted together for you to move on into this playoff thing. And I think that's a good way to do it, you know. I think definitely there is merit to rewarding both types of skill. You know, there's a merit to rewarding being good at best of one, and there's a merit to rewarding good adaptation, because both is very necessary at the world stage. And all in all, you know, the main thing I want to emphasize on is if you push in a best of one system, I think it's important to make sure you get more best of series. At the same time, you know, when it comes to best of two, I mentioned its bad reputation. Something that I remembered, like the OGN system was something that I really loved in the past. It was like a group stage, 4 teams in a group, and you play every team twice, and then you went into playoffs directly after that, and then that was it. You went into playoffs. The playoffs was pretty big, best of fives, and it was very exciting to watch, very exciting to look forward to these best of fives, and I really like that system. It was a long time ago though, so I don't know if it's completely applicable now, but I think what you need to look for is a good mix of both, and best of ones are positive. As long as Worlds is best of one, throwing in best of ones there is good. Playing best of ones is positive. Sure, best of 3, larger volume of games, stage games are more valuable, completely understandable. And from a coach standpoint, if this was the only change, best of 3 removed for best of one, if this was the only change, then this would be unsatisfactory from a competitive standpoint. That's why I want to kind of bring in this idea of extending playoffs, throwing in a tournament where there's more best of series, and just get a good mixture of both. I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I've gone through most of the points. I think at the end of the day, it's best of one, more money, easily digestible. Also, it's at Worlds. Best of 3, it's more competitive in the sense that you get more valuable games, you train adaptation, you get more prepared for best of fives. The more you have, the more clear winner. There are those aspects to it. At the end of the day, I think you need the best of 2 worlds. Alright, I think that leaves it at a good point. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.